Welcome to the first season of the Logos of Experience and Truth podcast. Know thyself. It's what was written over the entrance to the oracle at Delphi in ancient Greece and the oracle's kitchen doorway in the movie The Matrix. But what does it mean to know thyself? That I'm alive? That I eat? That I can speak? How do I know what is myself, especially if there are a million voices tugging at my attention or governing and running my attention from within the confines of my mind? Can my mind even be said to be my mind alone? Is my mind truly myself, and can I call it myself if it's stuffed with all these other invading voices? Knowing thyself is what Season 1 of the Logos of Experience and Truth centers on. Getting to these details will be a challenge. These were my first audio recordings that I decided to stick with. They came after 2 drafts written on a book I've been working on called The Beatific Vision of God. As such, they are ridiculously dense with titles that are more book chapter titles than podcast titles. The first 3 episodes were scripts I'd written and read. They are very mechanical and deal with lots of topics and subject matter, details and definitions and such, as I try to ground what the podcast is about both for you, the listener, as well as for myself. There's a big difference between what is thought, what is written, what is read, and what is spoken. The goal, of course, is to make what is written, read, and spoken what is being thought in the mind at that moment. But if you are honest with yourself, you know that's not what really happens most of the time. I feel I start to get my actual recording voice in episode 4, The Indescribability of God, which is where the talk on discerning the true self truly begins and is carried through to the last episode of the season. These are the keys to the self in these episodes. What the true self in our mind is versus the false self. What the true self of God is. How the true self in our mind is related to and different from the image and true self of God. How understanding these aspects of the true self split apart what is real versus what is not real in our mind. Then, in light of understanding our true self and the true self of God, I exchange God for self in Pascal's wager to see if it still works, especially towards pushing someone not to seek God, but to seek their true self. If there is no God, then at least you found yourself. But if finding the self means also finding God, well, you decide at that point if it is a worthwhile endeavor. For those that attempted and listened to the first season, especially the first episode, I thank you. The material in Season 1 is so utterly dense, especially for a beginner, that to any new listeners, I recommend listening to the 10-episode summary that I've published to get the gist of things, in addition to the overall podcast trailer. I also recommend visiting the individual podcast episode pages at logosofexperienceandtruth.com. Click the link in the episode description to listen with the time-stamped show notes. They can zip you straight to the parts of interest rather than trying to listen to these early encyclopedic episodes if my many tangents are annoying you, as they are annoying me on re-listens. I'm very honest in saying when I'm going into a rant on random stuff if you want to skip that stuff. You may miss out on some important details that arise again in future episodes, but at least your mind won't potentially explode from encyclopedia-level details in these first 10 episodes. Unless, of course, you are trying to make your mind explode. For how else does change truly occur in the mind? This is another underlying theme and subject I return to over and over again. How do we change our mind? We're always told to change. We need to change and grow, be different, improve. But how does this really occur? This is what the mysteries are meant to accomplish, and why the snake was revered across all religions and spiritual cults. Even Jesus said the snake was wise. It is very strange for me to make these trailer and summary episodes for season 1 after already recording them. But, like the snake shedding its skin, I am trying to learn and improve from these first 10 published episodes. As a quick foreshadow, season 2's 10 episodes have the same level of details, but follows a straight chronology starting with my descent into hell and near-death experience. It ends with the ascension experience at the end of this season's opening episode. Season 2 flows better than these first 10 episodes, I think, and each one is at or around the 30-minute mark, so they're not as long. In Season 3, I am focusing on a single subject or idea in each episode with podcast-friendly titles like, What are the mysteries? Is there a correct way to meditate? What is the mystical ascension experience? Foundational stuff I sort of overlooked in defining in Season 1. By changing to this format, I've recorded 40 episodes in a month, so I think I've found my sweet spot. Hit the subscribe button to get notified when one of the next 50 episodes is available. Now, the benefit of listening entirely to the Season 1 episodes or using the timestamps on the podcast pages to zip around within each episode is that I do return to and expand upon the many details I've stuffed into these foundational episodes. And to the keen listener or reader, if you've chosen to purchase the ebook of transcripts to support this podcast, I amplify and amplify and amplify the key teaching and lesson that God has seemingly put me on this earth to discern, since it is this key idea that has led to each and every downfall, descent into hell experience I've had, and rejecting this key idea that has brought each ascending and visionary and healing and illuminating experience I've had. And it has to do with what I'll lump together into one, since they are all of them the same thing. The secret to manifesting through the law of attraction. Many of the foundational details to understanding why this idea in all its facets goes utterly and absolutely against God are laid down in this season 1 of the Logos of Experience and Truth. Listen closely, especially if you've fallen into the trap of this occult principle. And I will leave you with that. Until next time.